You probably didn't expect a man wearing a silver toilet seat on his head to become one of DC's most emotional, complex, and unforgettable characters. And honestly, neither did James Gunn. But that's the magic in this story. When Peacemaker first showed up in the Suicide Squad, he wasn't a hero. He was a blunt, violent, messed up man who said he wanted peace but didn't care how many people he had to kill to get it. He was cocky, rude, and ended the film with a betrayal that shocked fans. Too many? He was the last guy you'd ever feel sympathy for. That's why it was so surprising when James Gunn announced Peacemaker would be getting his own spin-off series. At the time, nobody expected much. It felt like a strange, risky move. But what happened next? No one could have predicted that. The show wasn't just a wild, comedy-filled superhero series. It was deeper, darker, moving. I saw a side of Peacemaker's real name, Chris Smith, that had never been shown. A man raised by a cruel, racist father. A child who is taught violence as love. An adult weighed down by grief, guilt, and shame. Hiding it all behind bad jokes and even worse decisions. And week after week, people kept watching. Not just for the fight scenes or the catchy intro song, but because they started to care. John Cena's performance didn't just surprise fans, it hit them in the heart. He brought real emotion to Chris. You could see the pain in his eyes. You laughed at him, sure, but you also saw yourself in his self-doubt, his loneliness, his desire to finally be good. By the end of the season, Peacemaker had gone from comic relief to one of DC's most relatable and powerful characters. So when James Gunn was announced as the new co-head of DC Studios later that year, fans were thrilled. DC finally had a clear future. But it came with a major twist. He was starting everything over. A full reset. The entire DC universe would be rebooted. That meant new stories, new actors, new continuity, no promises about what would carry forward from the past. Suddenly, fans were left asking one question over and over again. What does this mean for Peacemaker? Would it all be erased, forgotten, canceled? After everything that show meant, the emotional journey, the character growth, it felt painful to imagine it just disappearing. People had connected with Peacemaker. They'd seen his trauma, his effort to change, and his deeply human struggle to prove he could still be something more than a weapon. For months, James Gunn stayed quiet on the details. He teased new projects like Superman, Legacy, and The Brave and the Bold, but never gave a clear answer on Peacemaker's future. Fans were left holding their breath. Then, finally, he responded. Gunn confirmed that Peacemaker Season 2 would still happen, but it would live inside his new DC universe. Yes, things would be different. The characters might be in slightly new worlds. But he made something clear. Peacemaker isn't being erased. His story still matters. That statement was more than a plot update, it was a promise. A reminder that stories don't have to be thrown away to make something new. Sometimes, the most powerful way to move forward is to bring the past with you. See, James Gunn didn't create Peacemaker just to make a violent, funny sidekick. He created him to show what it looks like when broken people try to be better, even when they fail, again and again. It's a story about owning your past, choosing to grow from it. So, even as the DC universe is rebooted, Gunn isn't wiping the slate clean completely. He's carefully carrying over the pieces that still matter. The emotional truths, the lessons we learned. The characters who still have more to say, Peacemaker. He has a lot more to say. Gunn has said that Season 2 will reflect the new direction of the DCUBT. Peacemaker's trauma, his memories, his personal growth, all of that still happened. It still lives inside him. The timeline may change, but the heart stays the same. That approach isn't just smart, it's powerful, because in a world where stories are constantly rebooted, retconned, and rewritten, it's rare to see a creator Fight to keep the soul of a character alive. In some ways, Peacemaker represents James Gunn himself. Both were once dismissed. Both made mistakes. Both were given a second chance. And both are using that chance not to forget the past, but to shape a better future with it. So don't worry, Peacemaker isn't going anywhere. His story is still being written. His fight for peace, for meaning, for change isn't over. And when we next see him, he'll carry every painful lesson he's learned into a whole new universe. Coming up in Part 2, we'll take a closer look at how James Gunn plans to mix old and new. What this means for Peacemaker's teammates, and why. This character may secretly be the emotional cornerstone of the entire new DCU, because sometimes the loudest guy in the room is hiding the deepest story. And James Gunn, he's making sure that story gets the ending it deserves. What do you keep when you decide to start over? That's the question James Gunn keeps circling like a man, both mourning and rebuilding the world he helped shape. Because rewiring an entire cinematic universe isn't just about characters and timelines. About meaning, emotion, legacy, and choices that echo far beyond the screen, and maybe no character better represents those collisions between past and future, failure and redemption than Peacemaker. Chris Smith is not your average superhero. He doesn't wear the mantle of hope like Superman. He doesn't hide behind shadows like Batman. He's not noble-wise or even comfortable in his own skin. But that's exactly why he survives this reset, because he's honest and complicated and real. In our last episode, we uncovered how Peacemaker, once considered a throwaway joke, became the emotional core of James Gunn's DC storytelling. We explored how his pain, trauma, and desperate desire for redemption made him more than a punchline. He became the weird, violent heart of something deeply human. But Part 2 tells the other side of that story. Now we look at why Peacemaker matters to the future of the DCU, not just emotionally, but structurally. Because for Gunn, rebooting the DC timeline isn't about wiping away beloved characters. It's about reshaping the world around them, so their stories can finally land in the right place. And maybe, just maybe, it begins with a man who once killed in the name of peace. So let's unpack it. Gunn's upcoming slate of DC projects, beginning with Superman. Legacy marks the start of Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. It's a bold title, one that echoes myth, tragedy, and chaos. And in the middle of those gods and monsters is Peacemaker, the man who fits neither class. He's not a god, not a monster. He's something stranger, and maybe more dangerous. He's human. Gunn has said repeatedly that his DCU will be more than capes and explosions. He wants character-driven narratives, choices with weight, stories that reflect who we are as messy, struggling people, not just polished icons. And that's exactly what Peacemaker proved. In fact, many industry insiders believe the success of Peacemaker, both critically and emotionally, is the secret reason Warner Brothers gave Gunn the keys to DC in the first place. Because, yes, the Suicide Squad showed he could direct blockbuster mayhem, but Peacemaker, that showed he had the soul. So Season 2 isn't just a continuation of a hit series, it's part of a larger experiment. One that asks, can emotional storytelling survive in a continuity-obsessed, universe-building era? Can we keep the scars in? A world that wants to pretend they're not there? According to Gunn, yes. So here's how it's happening. Season 2 of Peacemaker will not pretend Season 1 didn't happen. Chris still carries his trauma. He still remembers what he did to Rick Flag. He still sees hallucinations of his toxic father. All of that stays etched in him, but the setting around him, that's evolving. It's like peeling up the road but leaving the footprints behind. Subtly, the world will change. The rules, the references, even the characters might shift to fit the new DCU, but Chris Smith at the center. He knows. He knows what he's done. And he knows what he's trying to fix. And that creates something rare in superhero films. Emotional continuity without mechanical continuity. James Gunn is betting big on the audience's ability to follow the soul of a story, even if the set dressing changes. It's risky. But it's also poetic, in a culture where we often try to rewrite the past, erase it, cancel it. Move On. Gunn is saying something quieter, something radical. Healing doesn't require forgetting. Redemption means pulling your past with you and choosing a different path anyway. And here's what makes this even more interesting. Other characters from Peacemaker like Economos, Harcourt, and Vigilante May all reappear in some form. Their relationships with Chris are too rich, too beautifully flawed to leave behind. Each of those characters brought something grounded to the series. Loyalty, struggle, friendship, burden. You felt what it meant when Harcourt got shot, when Economos cried, when team bonds formed not because they were assigned, but because they needed each other to survive. The audience doesn't want a clean reboot. They want the Messinses to mean something. That's the same energy Gunn is injecting into the wider DCU. Think about it. He's introducing a brand new Superman, younger, more hopeful. He's giving the world its first big-screen booster gold. He's bringing deep cuts, like The Authority, into mainstream light. But he's anchoring it all on emotional storytelling, not gimmicks. Peacemaker's continued presence in this universe sends the signal loud and clear. This universe won't erase you for being flawed. It will grow with you. It's no longer about getting the biggest names into the biggest battle. It's about making every character matter, every journey connect, every scar visible. This isn't just a new DCU, it's James Gunn's apology. Letter to fragmented storytelling. And Peacemaker is the signature at the bottom of the page. Because if you watch closely, Peacemaker is everything this new DC needs to be. He's raw, he's unpredictable, he's funny, but aching, and most importantly, he's got room to grow. That's what makes him the perfect symbol for this universe reset. Not a clean page torn from old paper, but the same character trying to write a better ending. Gunn hasn't revealed much, and that's by design. But in quiet interviews and subtle hints, he's mentioned one thing again and again, accountability. This season, Peacemaker will be forced to confront not just what he's done, but what he hasn't done yet. He's stumbled through grief. He's lashed out at friends. He's forgiven himself too easily and punished himself too harshly. Now the decisions are harder, because now he knows better. And that's the moment heroes are truly born. Not when they win fights, but when they face the person they were and choose not to be that person again. For Chris Smith, that moment is coming. And for the DCU as a whole, it starts there too. As fans, we want storylines that reward us for caring, for paying attention, that validate our emotional investment, especially in a series that surprised us by how much heart it had hidden underneath a layer of absurd jokes and blood-splattered helmets. James Gunn isn't just respecting our time. He's respecting our feelings, because sometimes the loudest, weirdest, most damaged character turns out to be the one worth rebuilding an entire universe around.